Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Soul to Soul Connections with Jeni Ji. I'm Jeni Ji Cousins, your host and producer. Now, in order to tune in to the show and all the episodes, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and my podcast. I'm on many different platforms, so you're going to catch the show one way or another. And make some comments, you guys. Let me know what you think, and if you'd like to get a hold of my guest and such like that, we're going to have that information below for you anyways. So now, if also, by the way, if one of you or some of you or all of you feel that you have an inspiring story or a story that you'd love to share, please reach out to me, because you never know. I could say, you know what, it's time. Let's have a chat. So now on today's show, before I do the real intro for her, I'm going to read you just a little bit of her bio, and then I'll introduce Elizabeth. And then we're going to start chatting and answering questions and such like that. So now my guest is Elizabeth Kipp. And Elizabeth is a stress management and historical trauma specialist who uses trauma-trained and yoga-informed addiction recovery, coaching, ancestral clearing, compassionate injury inquiry, and yoga inquiry, isn't it?
Inquiry, that's right. Yep.
And yoga to help people with their healing. Elizabeth healed from over 40 years of chronic pain, including anxiety, panic attacks, and addiction. She now guides others to unleash their healing power, find freedom from suffering, and live a thriving life. Now, she's also a best-selling author of The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. So we're going to have a little chat with Elizabeth, and we're going to make it flow, and you're going to understand why I had to speak to her. Now, thank you for coming on and taking the time. I'm greatly honored to have you on, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeni Ji. It's so great to be here. It's my honor to be here, and I can't wait to share you with my audience as well.
So now, how did you get into the work you do as an addiction recovery coach?
Well, I healed I healed from as you said in the introduction, from 40 years of chronic pain, and 31 of those years was on prescription opiates and benzodiazepines for an anxiety medicine, which actually ended up giving me anxiety. When you take it too long, it ends up giving you the thing you're taking it for in the first place. And I went to a treatment center and into a pain management program while I was there that helped me. I mean, they helped me detox off the medicine, but they also taught me how to clear the pain I was in, which none of my doctors knew anything about. Their only answer was, here are your opiates and your benzos. That was their answer. So I finally found a doctor who understood the nature of chronic pain, and opiates and benzos don't heal the changes that happen in the brain because of that. So I went into this treatment center, and while I was there, in the afternoons, I went to the pain program, and there were 100 patients on the campus. 20 of us went to pain track, and the other 80 went to relapse school. And I went to my counselor and said, well, I'm not getting any training in relapse, and everybody else is every afternoon they're spending in relapse school. What am I supposed to do about that? And she said, there's an 80% relapse rate in the first year, talking about addiction, recovering from addiction. There's an 80% relapse rate. And I looked at her, and the first thing I thought to myself, because of the odds, was like, I'm doomed, right? And the second thing I thought, because I started in college as a social scientist, was what's wrong with the model we're using? Because if we've only got an 80%, if we've only got a 20% success rate, we've got to do something to change the model. So in that moment, I vowed to, once I got at home and kind of got my sea legs in recovery, that I would that I would do what I could to move the needle on that. That's how I got into this work. Yeah.
Oh. So what were some of like the challenges for you in your active addiction?
Oh, well, presence. Presence was a huge one. Um, also, I was in a lot of physical pain and didn't realize how much emotional pain was kind of locked in all of that. Um, and I didn't want to be in that space. So I had a real argument with my experience, pretty much every moment of my experience. And what does that do? That just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Right. So not being able to be present and then having an argument with the little bit of me that was present
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm craving, I'm in this cycle, which is the addiction cycle, craving, and aversion, just and not being able to get out of that. Also in chronic pain and addiction too, we get this very marked negative mind, and that was my biggest challenge coming out of that when I went into that pain management program and kind of got out. I walked in with 40 years of chronic pain, and 52 days later, I walked out with no pain, which is
Wow.
amazing. But I had a very marked negative mind, negative thinking mind. Not so much directed at other people, but definitely directed at myself. So low self-esteem and an inner critic, very fierce inner critic, and that's also addiction. That's craving and aversion kind of gone twisted in on itself, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So what has been and are the successes in your recovery?
Well, I was able to calm the negative mind. I was like, I mean, it was amazing to experience that, and of course I had been on opiates for a long time, so it doesn't just kind of numb,
Yeah.
it numbs everything, right? So I wasn't really in touch with my emotions until I got off the medication, and it kind of got through my system, and then I was fully alive. And with a negative mind and a fully alive emotion thing happening, um, that was a lot, and I was really grateful that I had Kundalini yoga. I had a very powerful yoga practice, and Kundalini yoga is not the only yoga. I just happened to be the one that I happened to be
Yeah.
introduced to when I got into treatment. That's the direct. Um, and I already had a meditation practice, and I had a lot of support. I had a lot of people around me in recovery that I could see what they were doing that was working and what wasn't working. So, I kind of felt like I was a mad scientist in my own laboratory trying to figure out how do I do this thing and beat the odds of an 80% relapse, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be those people, right?
Yeah.
So I had a pretty healthy program. Also nutrition.
Mhm.
I really worked on uh, kind of going from a really acidic
Mhm.
body that was I only weighed about, I mean, you're looking at me at about 140 pounds now, but I was 100 and I was barely 100 when I was fighting for 100 pounds
Wow.
when I was in that program. I mean, I walked in there at 92, and we kept working on, we'd weigh me every day
Yeah.
uh, to make sure that I wasn't losing more. That's the thing with me, is that when I get my reaction to stress at that time, I'm not that way anymore because I have a
Yeah.
wider window for tolerance. But a chronic pain patient can literally burn 6,000 calories a day. So
Really?
trying to keep weight on, well, my reaction to the chronic pain was just, I was just
Okay.
fighting with it. You're looking at somebody who I'll fight with it. Right? And the journey was to stop the
Yeah.
battle. Right.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, because I know that like some people who, like do different drugs and such like that, they have no appetite and they don't even realize it. And they drop all of this weight, and then you see them skinny and such like that. Did like the painkillers and stuff like that make you like lose your appetite altogether, and then you just
Well, yeah, that was really a combination. The problem with this is, which is why opiates don't heal, um, is they repress your respiration, so you can't bring in oxygen and let go of toxins the way a normal person does. So that's one thing.
yeah,
It paralyzes your digestive tract so that you're not bringing in nutrients, and you're not able to like deal with nutrients in the digestive tract, and it dehydrates you, so you don't have enough fluid in the system.
wow,
And the fact that you've got a dry mouth and you've got a depressed appetite is almost almost a side issue compared to the things I just brought in, right? Because they're so
yeah,
messy, right? So
exactly,
it felt to me like my issue was I just reacted to the pain a lot. My nervous system was just so tense. And it didn't matter kind of how much medicine they gave me. I would have had to been knocked out because I just was, and the longer I was in the pain, the more wound up I got.
yeah.
And that's the nature of chronic pain. That's the reason why you don't want to stay on those drugs for a long time, because it's not helping. It's just feeding the cycle.
Yeah, yeah, and then you just get addicted to it, of course, because I mean, you've seen that even with like celebrities and such, because of course they plaster everything up on there, right? Like Matthew Perry, even, like his addiction to painkillers and such, which really escalated into other drugs and such. Did you get more like addicted to like other things as well whenever you were on your painkillers and such, or?
Well, I had a sugar addiction, but those opiates and sugar are very similar in that they hit the same receptors in the brain. Um, I also had, like I said, I had this. So in addiction, from the way we look at it in Recovery 2.0, which is Tommy Rosen's recovery program, is there's 6 main ones: drugs, alcohol, relationships, money, technology, and food. So that's 6. And then there's four, he calls them 4 aggravations. There's resentment, negative thinking, self-doubt, and procrastination.
Yeah.
And I add a 5th one in there, judgment. So those are all things that we get very, they actually, we get in these patterns. So
Yeah,
addiction is a pattern that's not serving. So it's like anything that we're doing that has a negative consequence on our life, that we just keep doing it and it still has that's addiction.
yeah,
You're asking a question. The way I'll answer that is to say my core addiction was codependency,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is this, you know, uh, unhealthy relationship with people, right?
yeah,
Which is that's really an attachment wound when we're kids, and we just don't know how to, and so we have to learn how
yeah,
to we have to clear that. We have to do some work around that, and learn. Oh, it looks like we didn't get very good modeling when we were kids. We have to learn, you
yeah,
know, learn from people that are in that work, that know how to do it. Yeah.
yeah. Because some people are like, they get, like addicted to, you have to eat that. I always remember I was over at a friend's house, and there was one little guy there, a child or whatever, and he couldn't eat his full meal, and then he was throwing it out, and then she freaked out on him, and she's like, you have to eat every single thing on your plate. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to get involved with it, but I'm like, wow, it was quite harsh, really. And I'm like, you don't want to program that into somebody's head. You have to eat every single thing, because that can stick there. I knew somebody who had an eating disorder because they're like, that stuck in my head as well. And she couldn't clear it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's I just got out of a food addiction meeting. That's what I do. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I lead a food addiction meeting for Recovery 2.0, and And all kinds of disordered eating patterns. And that is one of many, one of many roots. So we have to be careful about, well, we have to be careful about how we take care of our kids, but
Yeah.
we don't know what we don't know. And everybody's doing the best we can. And this isn't like a diss on my parents, or even her parents so much
Yeah.
as, well, okay, this thing happened. They were doing the best they could with the information they had at the time and the consciousness they had at the time. Now what do I do? Right. To like switch this old habit into a healthy one. That's the work that I do. Yeah.
Is it, I mean, like, especially if it's been holiday season, that's why I'm glad of all months, we could chat this month. I'm like, I have to talk to Elizabeth this month of all months, right? Being a holiday season. I know addiction doesn't matter when, but this is the highest month for suicide rates and such like that. So what, like, would you like even suggest, like, what tools could somebody use really to like help them navigate even more around this season, especially like Christmas and holidays and festive?
I'm so glad you asked that question. We really have to have a plan, um, going into the holidays, because there's just more triggers. There's more
Yeah.
stimulation in the environment, so we really have to be grounded. So the first thing that the first place I would start is what is my intention for the holiday season? Is it to keep my sobriety, or is it to party all night long? And what are the consequences of that action? What are the consequences of my intention going to be? And can I live with myself if my intention and my leads to these consequences? Am I still in integrity with myself? Now, this is the thing about recovery. When I sit, and I'm 10 years and a little few months in recovery now at this point, and I've sat in the recovery rooms and hours and hours and hours, and listened to all kinds of people all over the place. And my ear, remember my story, my ear has been, how are people dealing with relapse? Like that, what's causing relapse, and how can we head it off? And the thing that I noticed was, when I'm out of integrity, when people get out of integrity with their own value system, that's when the relapse thing starts. And another thing that was interesting about the relapse, I heard this old timer say this. He said, an expectation is a resentment about to happen, and a resentment is a step towards relapse. And that got my attention.
Wow. That's highlighted. That should really be highlighted, because resentment can be against yourself or somebody else or something, right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, so that's so how am I coming into the holiday? What's my intention? What my intention is, it in line with my values, so that I stay in integrity with myself?
Mhm.
That's where I would start. Right. And then all the things underneath that are things like, well, how do I keep myself safe?
Yeah.
Right. Safety first. And so we have to, am I grounded? Like, am I safe in this place? If I'm not, leave. Right. Am I grounded? You want to make sure you have a support system around you. Um, hopefully you can communicate your needs to your family members or the people closest to you, letting them know that you're trying to stay sober, and maybe they'll help you with what they call them mocktails, not non-alcoholic
Yeah.
beverages, and maybe not super sugary treats, because if you're sugar is this other substance that's highly addictive, and it's just everywhere on the holidays. It's not just in alcohol, but it's everywhere. So keeping an eye on that, because our sugar, this is part of food addiction,
Yeah.
healing from when we bring sugar to the system, then our emotions end up doing this seesaw thing, and we wonder what happened, and it's because we got a bunch of sugar on board, and that's not helpful for us staying safe,
Yeah.
feeling safe, and staying grounded in the holiday. So it's just a suggestion. Make sure that you have an exit strategy, like a graceful exit strategy. What is, and take, feel free, like you can take breaks. And I had a friend who told me that he went and visited his family, and then he stayed for a while, and then he took off and played a game of tennis just to kind of move some energy, right? And he came back, right?
Wow.
So, so have support,
Yeah.
uh, you know, have a graceful exit strategy, take breaks,
Mm.
bring in self-compassion.
So what is like because I mean, like most people will go to family or friends, right? So what
Mhm.
happens if they go to either family or their friends for dinner or for whatever, and they don't say anything to them because they find that, because I've had this happen, even like just for myself, let's say, or you know what, no, I'm not going to have anything like a piece of pie, let's say, or I'm not going to have like that chocolate, for instance, right? And then it's like sometimes the more you say that to them, oh, what are you talking about? It's Christmas or it's this holiday. One's not going to hurt you, or whatever like that, right? So sometimes I know some people will hold back from even saying that, you know what, I'm not drinking, or I'm not like, or I'm on a diet, or like whatever it is, right?
Yeah, or I have an allergy, whatever the thing.
Yes.
So I hear you, and I have my own. For me, I don't like to draw attention to myself.
Yeah.
I'm at a party. Focused on the hostess, on other people at the party, and I'm that's just kind of my nature. Is like, I don't want
Yeah.
to draw attention to myself, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, for me, but here's the thing: how do I deal with that? I'm focusing on connection, not consumption.
That's really good. That's really good. Yes.
So yeah, so it's kind of like, where's the attention, right? Our attention is the super tool
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
life for anybody.
Yeah.
Where's my attention? So that's just kind of how I deal with that. Um, again, we want to think about service rather than kind of like, um, well, it's just a good idea. If we could be of service,
Yeah.
um, maybe cleaning up at the party, or
Hmm.
helping people with their coats, or whatever it is, um, or maybe going to a meeting, or whatever it is. Uh, Being of service again helps you get out of yourself and into others, and that's very healing.
Yeah. Because it not only helps that person, but it helps yourself too. I
Yeah,
find,
exactly.
because you're talking about it more and you're interacting with it more and putting your energy towards that person of trying to help them and focus on them. And at the same time, you're kind of calming yourself down or having that
Yeah,
conversation to yourself. Yeah.
so you're focusing on connection,
Yes.
right? And so
Yeah.
that keeps you away from, oh, I'm not getting, I can't eat this thing, and I can't, if you say, I know I was trained when I raised my son. One of the things I tried really hard not to do was to say, don't do whatever, like, don't eat the chocolate cake, because what was going to happen? He wanted to eat the chocolate cake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's, if I'm going into a party, and I see something that's like, I really would like, I would have consumed in the past, um, I focus on connection, not what I'm not getting,
Yeah.
because I'm just going to get more of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So those are some things that I would do. And the phone, please, reach out. I have a friend in recovery who I feel is a great role model in this regard, in many regards, but this is particular. He says, never, well, one of his teachers says, don't complete a negative thought about yourself in your mind ever. And I heard him say that, remember, negative thinking problem in the beginning. I was like, how would I even know how to stop that? Because before I know it, it's here and it's complete. And I thought, you can stop it halfway through. How does that even work? Right. Anyway, that was an interesting teaching when I first started. But but his student, who's one of my friends and teachers, also, he doesn't sit with a negative thought by himself. He gets on the phone and gets somebody gets a friend, and they co-regulate, they help each other.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, you're not bothering somebody when you pick up the phone, somebody else who's in recovery. You're not bothering somebody or a friend or whoever by saying, I need help. You're not bothering them, because you know what you're doing? You're helping them be helpful. So you're helping them be do service as well. So everybody wins in that.
Yeah. And they know what it's like, and they can connect and relate to that too.
Mhm.
So the recovery groups, are amazing, like amazing support and such like that.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So many of us are certainly me. I'm still at a stage where I'm just not used to people saying yes and being nice. I just I
Yeah.
just I just kind of had so much what you call it, discipline with they
Disappointment.
but a lot of letdown when I was
Yeah.
when my in my formative years, and
Yeah.
relative to my perception of what was happening, right?
Yeah.
My perception was I was getting let down a lot, that I'm still kind of, wow, they're actually helping me.
Yeah.
I still,
Yeah.
part of me still does that.
Yeah. I think that'll always be around though, right? Like, I mean, I've had many disappointments in my life too. And I find it does take a toll on somebody, because it's like, wow, I've had so many disappointments with something. How do I know this is going to work or that's going to work and such like that? So, and then it's like, what's going to work for you? You're going to feel it. You're going to feel that passion. You're just going to know that's your route. And I believe we do get kind of pulled off track on purpose at times, to say, you know what, that's not your pathway. That's not where you're supposed to be connected or headed to. So we're going to send you to the right people to actually help you or work with you or whatever like that.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's what I do. I just surrendered. So now you're also a best-selling author of the book The Way Through Chronic Pain: Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. So yes, yes. I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. Like I'm going to. I love books that are very healing and nurturing, and because I find the more we learn ourselves and help ourselves, the more we can help learn and teach others to help themselves too. So what really made you write this book? Like, when did you feeling that, I got to write this book?
I love that you asked that question. I really what I discovered from my living it, but then I remember 40 years, so long time. I had a lot of surgery, in and out of doctor's offices, in and out of physical rehab places, in and out of kind of uh, healing places, and uh, and what I learned was chronic pain patients don't tell the truth. We either complain all the time or we don't say anything. And neither of those is actually the truth. So, and also because there's a lot of confusion around what chronic pain is, and it's not just physical, it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. Uh, any pain that's felt for 15 days out of 30 or for 3 months or more is chronic. It all sends the same signal to the brain, it hurts. So a broken bone and a broken heart,
Yeah,
same signal,
yeah.
right? So it's all chronic pain. And so this is misunderstanding. And I just felt like it was really important to write a book about I wrote about the tools that I use. There's a little bit of my story in there, but this is not my story per se. It's
Yeah.
the tools I use to kind of move through, and and also it really puts a light on the voice of the chronic pain sufferer, so that doctors, nurses, family members, even chronic pain sufferers, they can read this book, and it's a short read. This is not a thick book. It's just a little, just thin. It's just a lot. It's packed. It's just
And
dense.
that can be easier though. Like find sometimes the bigger the books, it's like, I'm not going to read that. But that book there, it's like, people can actually read that.
Mhm. Yeah. So I wanted all these different kinds of people that work with chronic pain sufferers, plus the chronic pain sufferers themselves, to really understand the landscape of a chronic pain sufferer. And I wanted chronic pain sufferers to actually realize that somebody else understood them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something very healing when you're able to, somebody else, oh my God, she got me, and she puts it into the words, and I couldn't have done, I felt that, but I don't have the
Yeah.
words for that, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote the book. Yeah. And also the doctor that took me through in his pain management program, Dr. Peter Prescott, he
Mm.
wrote a book, Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind-Body Approach. He passed away in 2016, but he left this book, and it's the doctory, researchery piece. There's some beautiful exercises in the back of the book, which I've done, and I helped him write. And then this book is like the patient, this is like the sequel to his book, and it's not so researchery, it's not so sciencey.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice companion. The two books kind of go well together.
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes, like, depending on the person, some people are like, what, I want more simplicity than all of this medical, jabber, 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 because they're not going to truly understand it.
Mhm.
So that's so exciting. That's so exciting, because you can learn so much in that. You can learn so much in that book. So now what are the 5 ways to relieve stress? Like, one of the best 5 ways to relieve stress.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So I have this free thing. You guys can all we'll put a link in there for you to access it. 5 ways to relieve stress. You get an email every day. There's actually 7. There's 2 bonuses, but we start with the breath. We want to add in meditation, which is very healing to the brain. Also, there's ancestral clearing, which is very helpful for me. So that's helping us clear the patterns of the past. Now, yoga does that too, just in a different way. And other therapies do that too, but this is ancestral clearing is kind of a very specific modality. Also, was very helpful for me to rescript my inner critic. Like I took her to inner mean girl school, and I gave her a makeover. That's what happened. Yeah. So that's one of the tools we bring in. I bring into that. So
Yeah.
there's a nice little tool set that you can use every day, that'll help you really
Yeah.
find stability and
Yeah.
help you along wherever you are on your healing journey. It'll help you find stability and help you widen your window of tolerance to the stuff that happens, so that you're able to kind of weather things as you learn to feel your
Mhm.
feelings and clear a lot of the stuff that that that's unresolved in the body.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it stays stuck there. So speaking of your ancestral clearing, that was actually one of my questions, because I know you do that. Can
Yeah.
you explain, for those who are familiar with it, what is ancestral clearing?
So it's a complementary healing modality developed and taught by John Newton of Health Beyond Belief, and was pioneered by Howard Wills. I'm just a practitioner of his. I've been a practitioner since 2014. It's based on the understanding that we come into this life with the gifts and the burdens of our ancestors, And, think about it, in the DNA is coming in with lots of information. The information comes in because the way we operate is it's like we need it in the next life, right? So and one of the things that gets passed along are unresolved issues, like vengeance, like unresolved, unfinished business, old hurts and wrongs, betrayal energy, war energy, maybe unrequited love, worry energy. Lots of us have worry energy, and a lot of my clients come in and they have a scarcity mentality, just like, I can't make it, I can barely make it from paycheck to paycheck, or every time I do this happens. And it's a lot of like blocks around abundance, and it makes sense when you look at it from an ancestral point of view, depending on where they came from. It really doesn't matter where they came from. If they came from the past, they've got a scarcity.
We're here.
somewhere in the lineage that was a thing, and it depends on the person and what they're carrying as to how much of that they have. Some of us, have that, and some of us have the worry energy, and some of us have self-esteem stuff, and everybody carries different things.
Yeah.
But it's similar enough so that when I do group work, it's very interesting, because I'll have a group event and 40 people will come in, signed up from wherever, and they'll have really similar themes. And it happens every time there's a theme. I just did one for helping to heal family conflict and conflict around war. I just did one last month on that, just to kind of, because there's so much of that in the ethers right now, that and that was very interesting to see, kind of, the people that came together for that. It was super powerful. So we can actually release this stuff. And in ancestral clearing, what we do is we ask the creator energy to come in on our behalf and help us release that which no longer serves us. Because if I could have let go of stuff, I would have. But I don't know. I don't have for some reason, I don't have the power. We bring in higher power energy, and it's very interesting how powerful that is at helping us release stuff. I was very impressed with it, and I have the science background, and you can't come to me with woo-woo unless it's unless I have an experience around it. Give me an experience, and I'll get it. Otherwise, it's going to go right over my head.
Exactly. So somebody's like having a panic attack, like what's one of the ways to kind of like ease that, like help them ease away from a panic attack? Because a panic attack can come on at any given time, really, for any reason, right?
Well, they can, and I have one tool that I use immediately when that happens, and I've that's happened to me probably a dozen times in the 10 years I've been in recovery. I'll actually come in and use what's called bilateral EFT tapping. If I can get them to look at me and mimic what I'm doing, and I start doing the EFT tapping, and they say what I say, so I have their attention. Where's their attention? I get their attention on me. They do the stuff that we actually do a certain tap on certain areas in a certain sequence and say certain things. And if they can do that, we'll do that for a couple of rounds, which takes maybe 30 seconds a round. They're down in about a minute.
Wow.
They're down from that total, right? And then we can have a conversation about what happened. But you can't have a conversation with somebody who's running from a tiger because they're busy running. But if you can get their attention and focus it so that all they have to do is mimic me, great. Then once they get there, I'll give them 3 minutes of just breathing through the left nostril, which is stimulating the calming center. You're a yogi, right? You know this trick? Yeah. So
the right nose and the left nose.
Yeah. Well, it's just the left.
Yeah.
So the left is inhaling on the left is just stimulates the calming center in the brain. So 3 minutes of just left nostril breathing in that situation gives a signal to the nervous system, I'm safe.
Yeah.
So discharge the big charge out of the system with EFT, bilateral EFT tapping, which I teach. You won't find that online. And it's kind of special. And then the left nostril breathing, and then, just, be present with the person, let them kind of reset because they
Yeah.
just had a big,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
be with them and see what it is that they're,
Yeah.
where they want to go from there,
Yeah.
but you can get them down pretty quickly.
Yeah. Because I had a friend that she had so many panic attacks, she stopped driving. She hasn't, because anytime she'd start driving, right, could like anywhere really, she'd start having a panic attack. So she
Well,
stopped, she doesn't drive anymore. Like,
she needs to learn how to, she probably should work with a therapist because there's some trauma there that she needs to clear.
yes, yeah, like
That's if you brought me that client, I would say I'll be a support for your trauma therapist. I'm a great coach in that space, but that particular behavior is I work with people that have that in the moment
yeah,
when I happen to be there, but that's a pattern like that, I would ask them to, because I had my own issues with panic attacks, and therapy was, well, getting off the meds was important too, but
yeah,
I really, we had to do some work around the things that were causing me to freak out
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
I didn't even know what they were myself. It took a while.
yeah. Yeah. Like I think with hers, I mean, I also do past life akashic records, and
Mhm.
with her it goes way even back for a past life akashic records and such like that. She got in an accident and died. So anytime she got in a car,
Okay.
it's stuck in her cellular memory.
Mhm.
And she's like, and I wanted to, help her through it and such. And she's like, oh, no, because anytime she started to think about even her keys, her car keys, not her house keys, but her car keys, even, she's like, oh, I can't even have my
Okay.
car keys. She took her car keys off her keychain for her house.
Yeah, see, now I hear you there,
Yeah,
and this is where I feel like you and I both could serve her after she's had some work with a trauma therapist to
yeah,
help
yeah,
clear the big charge out of it.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
in there to help kind of clear up the other stuff, because
yeah.
I
Yeah, it's
just,
pretty severe.
you
Like,
know what I'm saying, because that's a super reactive, and we want to make sure that
yeah, she still doesn't drive today. And this was like um 15 years ago, somewhere around there. She's still young, right? And she still won't drive. She can get on a bus and she feels okay. She goes, because I'm not driving it. I'm like, oh,
yeah. Well,
you
there's,
know? Yeah,
EMDR, and there's all kinds of
yeah,
things
yeah,
that trauma therapists do. And I personally think that the work that you do and the work that I do, working with the past, is also a really helpful
yeah,
in the space. But we come in more as complementary to,
yeah,
they kind of run point. For me, I would just like, they're running point, and I'm going to come in and coach and
yeah,
support behind.
yeah.
Um,
If
that's
it's,
a
yeah.
huge lot.
So if somebody says, right? So let's, if I said to her, you should really, which I have, right? But she says, I'm too scared to have a session because I don't know what's going to come up. And then
Yeah.
she freezes. And I'm like, well, obvious trauma and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if somebody's like, if I said, okay, you should go see Elizabeth, for just for an example, and if somebody says, you know what, I'm too scared, what would you
Yeah.
say to that person? I'm too scared to go like talk to her. And I'm like, okay, then talk to somebody else. It's not going to matter, right? Like, what would you say to somebody to,
Well, see, that right there is a, yeah, I'm too scared right there. You know, that's a nervous system that dysregulated, right?
yeah,
They're in defensive mode just so quick.
yeah, yeah,
And so I would encourage them, I would take them through a breath practice. I would do the left nostril breathing for maybe 3 minutes if they could stay there,
yeah,
and then take it through the alternate nostril breathing, which you were talking about. and just see if they could just nervous system calm enough,
Yeah.
and then they actually feel safe.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is that she doesn't feel safe in that presentation, and so you're not going to get anywhere with a client like that, with a person like that, until they feel safe. So we have to bring in a sense of safety. And how do we do that? Nervous system first, then we're co-regulating. They feel safe, and then we can kind of like co-regulate each other. Our nervous systems talk to one another, and they're, oh, okay. And now I can learn. You can't learn when you're running from a tiger.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because she says, well, she goes, maybe if it's like a hypnotherapist or something where somebody actually put me under, so I'm not hearing what I'm saying, or I'm not feeling what I'm saying. She goes, I'll videotape, you can videotape it, but I want to go under. I don't want to hear and be present with what I'm saying or what's being asked. Like, that's pretty severe, isn't it?
There's a lot of judgment there, and there's also a lot of mind in that. And I would put this forward.
Yeah.
The mind follows the breath. Yes, the mind does inform the body, but mostly the body informs the mind. So the mind follows the breath. So what's happening with her breath?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably very shallow and quick, and the mind is going to be like erratic and skittish and dysregulated if the breath is dysregulated. So that's where we start with the nervous system first.
Yeah. Like I'm still even quite worried about her and stuff, and but one day at a time. I don't know, right? I don't talk to her that much, but every now and then I might send her a message just checking up on you and stuff like that. But it's like she just numbs everything out and such. And
well, it's the way that she's staying safe. This is, all these behaviors, addiction, any kind of thing that we're protecting, these are all ways. There's nothing wrong with us. We're reacting perfectly normally. We're just trying to stay safe in the moment, and it's the best way we know how, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is spiritual pain?
Oh, yeah, that's disconnection from God.
Yeah.
Right? That would be, some people don't believe in God.
Yeah.
Let's say you're agnostic, and however, when you go out in nature, you can relate to the wonder and the rhythm of nature. Well, spiritual pain in that space would be, I don't care anymore. And I've been there. So I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of a spiritual pain. I just, that disconnection, which happens really in trauma. Trauma is, Dr. Gabor Mate says this, and the trauma is in the trauma space. Trauma is not what happened to you, it's what happens inside of you because of what happens to you.
Yeah.
And trauma is when it's not the hurt that's the problem, it's when we're alone with the hurt that's the right. This connection that we experience. And so spiritual pain is that disconnection from ourselves. We dissociate from our soul, right? Disconnection from others. In chronic pain, that happens because I can't share my experience with you. So there's that, and then there's disconnection from the all that is, whatever you want to call that, God, the infinite, divine, nature, whatever that is. You're kind of in this no man's land where you're completely disconnected. That's a very scary place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because then suicidal thoughts come in. If somebody said to you, I deal with suicides as well, and it's a whole different story, right? If somebody, like, let's say, had these suicidal thoughts for whatever reason, like especially this month, right? Especially this holiday season, of course, I'm really depressed. I'm really, like, there's no hope, there's no faith, like, whatever it is, what, like, kind of recommendation, or what would you say to that person?
Well, I'm not a suicide. I love the question. It's very important. I'm not a suicide like I'm a therapist and I'm not a
Yeah.
suicide expert. I worked at hotlines many, many, many years ago, but that was, many, many years ago. Um, get help
Yeah.
from an actual professional, like call the suicide hotline, because they know this territory.
Yeah.
I don't, I know enough to know, go there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I can help if I don't know, I'm not going to do that. Well, I would help them breathe, and I would, I would sit with them and I would try and be present with them, but I would keep working them in the direction of calling that suicide hotline.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because you work and of course do the yoga and such like that. Can you give us just some, I mean, I love yoga myself and I'm a little restricted right now because I have some injuries, but um, can you share like what are some of the benefits from doing yoga?
Oh, well, presence is one. Just yoga is now. The first Yoga Sutra is yoga is now. Um, so why is that important? We heal in the now. We can't heal in the past. We can't heal in the future. Life is not happening in the past or the future. Life is happening now. So yoga is now would be like the first thing. And also, remember we talked about disconnection?
No.
Well, yoga, the practice of, it's not the only thing that takes us there, but it's one of them. Um, helps us connect back into ourselves and reminds us, we remember that I'm not my pain, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my, I'm not my relationship with, my other person. I'm experiencing my pain and I'm experiencing my thoughts, but that's not who I am. I'm experiencing it. I'm the witness to all of that. And that understanding is very powerful,
Yeah.
because you don't identify with your pain. This is the thing, is we would be trying to go in that direction with somebody who's suicidal, but because I'm not a suicide person, I don't know how to navigate that expertly, and that's why we would send them there. But they're identifying with their experience to the point where they don't realize they're watching it, and that is a problem. You see? Yeah. So those are the two things. Yoga is now, and we become the watcher of our experience. And then the asana work, the postures and the breath work, and those things are all the other limbs of, there's 8 limbs to yoga. All those things, and integrated practice is beautiful, because it's attuning the body, the mind body spirit system. It's attuning it so that you can really use it efficiently and optimally. That's
Mhm.
the thing I like about it. But
Yeah.
qigong is too. That's another another thing that's like, really good at doing that. So there's other ways, but that's why I like yoga.
I mean, I used to have nerve pain in my leg, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna give yoga a try. I said, I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna work. This was years ago, right? And I'm like, so I took one class, like I signed up. I'm like, go to classes, don't do it at home, go to classes because you'll actually have to be there. And even on it was hatha yoga, and even on my first class that night, I actually I could lay down without my thigh. Actually, it was my thigh, like kind of going into spasms, or that kind of like talking to me like, hello, I'm hurting, right? And it was that first class I could start to notice a difference, because I was
Mhm.
taking 2 classes a week, and it was gone. Like it was gone. Like, and I'm like what's going on, right? And it's stretching the muscles and releasing and the energy and working with the flow of it, I found. And it
Yeah.
was really like, for me personally, I mean, I love it. I love it.
Very powerful. Yeah. It
Yeah.
really helped me unwind from all the tension
Yeah.
pattern that I had. It
Yeah.
really helped me unwind. I had people around me that were in recovery and knew me before, when I was before I went into treatment, and they were all kinds of different healers, and they all were shocked at how quickly I
Yeah.
just better. And it was because I did this nutrition,
Yeah.
the yoga thing. I went to meetings. I took it seriously. I was like, I am not going to be one of the 80%. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
happening.
yeah, yeah.
Or I'm going to do everything in my power not to be one of those people.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I love Tommy's classes, like even the morning sadhana. I can't even talk today. My words are all bubbled up. But I love even just doing that because he has even little practices where you can even do it for 15 minutes if you don't have time, because people are like, I don't have an hour. I don't have like an hour. And I'm like, you know what? You could even do 15, 20 minutes of it, even 10 minutes, right? Like people don't realize that. And it
That's
does,
right.
for me personally, it really has made a difference. And I'm trying to get myself together and get back into it even more so as I'm healing.
Beautiful. Well, I don't know what your physical injuries are, but I've had a couple of compression fractures in my spine.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
like 5, 6 years because opiates and
Yeah.
osteoporosis kind of go together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Healing from that, but I had that issue, and they were right at the
Yeah.
level of the lungs and the liver and the gallbladder,
Mhm.
and I couldn't. All I could do while those were healing was I had a breath practice.
Mm.
And I couldn't even take deep breaths for a while, but I just 11 minutes. My sadhana was listening to Japji, which is a chanted a prayer takes 31 minutes to listen to it. Or I couldn't hardly even chant that because I was too painful, but I
Mm.
listened to it. And then I would do this 11 minutes of just breath work.
Wow.
And that was great. And
Yeah.
I just kept at it.
Yeah.
I couldn't take a deep breath because of the pain,
Yeah.
but I went right to the edge
Yeah.
where it was
Yeah.
okay. And I just kept doing that and it helped clear it. So this was my sadhana. That's what I did. I couldn't do any spinal energy series or anything. I couldn't do
Yeah.
any of it. Right?
Exactly.
But I could
Exactly.
so it took about 6 weeks for me to get back into a regular
Wow.
practice, but that's not too bad with a compression
That's
fracture, bone
that's
fracture.
really good. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like I used to run 8 miles a day once upon a time ago, mind you. And I injured myself. I learned the hard way, right? That see, I'd go to like Walmart and I'd buy runners, like a pair of runners or trainers. I'm like, I'm not spending all this big money on runners. Like, what's wrong with these people? So I'd buy really cheap runners. And I learned the hard way that you have to have really good arch support, and especially when you're running. So I damaged my feet. And even my foot surgeon said, you have 300 ailments per foot. Like I learned so much. And he says, you're not going to be able to walk again and run again. So long story short, I had moved to Ireland, and I met this foot surgeon who was very hot, by the way, but and he made me orthotics, like custom made orthotics, and I had to start learning how to walk again. Like I didn't talk about it, or nobody knew too much about what was going on, and to learn to walk again, like
Mhm.
that was intense. It's something so simple, but it wasn't. So I can go on the treadmill even now today, every now and then. I just kind of pay attention to if I start hurting, I stop. But sometimes I can even go on a treadmill even for like 20 minutes, which is huge
Amazing.
compared
That's
to
amazing.
not being able to walk ever again type thing,
Good
right?
for you.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful healing story. What a testament to the
yeah,
healing possible, right?
yeah, exactly. And it's just like slow and steady wins the race, even and even with like addictions and stuff like that too, right? Like all of that. And I mean, I can't believe that we're like coming here to like wrap up. I have so many more questions to ask you, and I'd like to have you on again and interview you again. Like I literally have tons of questions because this topic here with addiction and everything, it's huge, right? Like it's huge. And I'm gonna start going live in sometime in the new year, which is what, like 3 weeks away now, right? And it'd be great to have you on and do a live show where people can ask you directions or
Oh, I love that.
questions.
Yeah,
See
I
my
love that.
words today, like asking you questions and stuff like that too. That would be great.
I love that. I'd love that very much.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, like book like an appointment with you, grab some books or sign up, what's one of the best ways for them to do that?
Oh, you can find me at my website, which is Elizabeth with a dash, Kipp.com. Got to put a dash between my first and last name, Elizabeth Kipp, KIPP.com. Otherwise, ElizabethKipp.com is a web designer and photographer who's extraordinary, but she's not me. So Elizabeth-Kipp.com. I have lots of resources there.
Yeah.
All my social media, you can contact me through there. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
That's awesome. And plus, we're going to have your links below, so people can get a hold of you too. Like I said, there's tons of questions to ask you even. And I can't believe like this time just flew by really quickly, and thank you again. Like, I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and experience, and your story with everyone.
My goodness, Jenny, I appreciate the opportunity to share. Hopefully, the people that will benefit from this will hear it, right? That's the idea. And I appreciate your platform.
Oh, of course. No worries. No worries at all. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into my show, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and my podcast in order to catch these interviews and other videos and content that's on there. And keep in mind, if you have a story you'd like to share and talk about, send me a message, because you never know. I might just knock on your door. Just kidding. Unless you send me a plane ticket to Hawaii or something, but I'm just saying. So thank you again, Elizabeth. And until then, namaste, everyone, and keep on keeping on and stay in the modality of love. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Jeni Ji.
Namaste.